Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast. We believe the best financial advice should always be conflict-free. I'm your host, Casey Smith, guiding you to financial freedom days. My co-host, Robert Swarthout, founder, CEO, portfolio manager of Teton Crypto Capital. Hey, Robert.
How's it going?
Good. It's been a little while since we had you on the podcast. That's not because of you. That's because of me.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, it's been about 2 months, so we had to pick and choose which news we were willing to talk about today, so we weren't talking people's ears off for 2 hours.
Right. Well, we want to have a crypto edition once a month is our intention. I've been caring for my grandfather who's 96, and we had to cancel at least one or two of these episodes just because I had to get to him in a hurry. But
Yeah,
thanks for doing this. We're both remote today, so it's
yeah,
thank goodness for technology to put all this together.
absolutely.
So let's start talking about Bitcoin and the ETFs and their
hmm
popularity.
Yeah,
We've added at Wiser, we've added a Bitcoin addition to our normal strategic models.
right.
Even in our Flight Path program, which has smaller accounts, the Flight Path program now has Ethereum and the Bitcoin
hmm
ETF that's built in, anywhere from 1% to 3% of the portfolio. And this is like really leading edge. As much as we've talked about
Yeah,
crypto, right? This is
yeah,
really leading
absolutely.
edge because it wasn't until recently these bigger wirehouses that you could even buy them.
Yeah, it's been cool. It feels like the Bitcoin ETFs have been around forever. We have to remember they came in January the 15th, so we're
Yeah,
not even
yeah,
a year into it
right.
at this point. And, they have certainly set records that blow everybody's mind if they would have heard them a year ago. All expectations are, well past even what the aggressive ones. Um, so since the launch of Bitcoin ETFs in January, Bitcoin is up roughly 30%. This is as of like a week ago when I was looking at the math. And what we haven't said here is, in July, there was a launch of Ethereum ETFs, right?
Right.
And the story is not so rosy there. They're down 30-ish%. So not to say that one asset is better than the other. That's not really what I'm saying here. Just interesting to see one has a much better marketing plan around it, and it's got the brand recognition, and that's not something that Ethereum gets to enjoy at this point. So
But I would
yeah,
argue that Ethereum has more useful purpose than Bitcoin.
that's probably true. But find me someone that is not a crypto native person and have them explain Ethereum to me, and then you'll have found that one person that exists. Um,
Right. That's true.
it's you know I think from an advisor perspective, like how do they explain it to a client when they don't even understand it, and you quickly get down a rabbit hole there. So but yeah,
Yeah.
for the from the launch up until I believe it was in August, you couldn't buy a Bitcoin ETF if you were at like a big wirehouse, Morgan Stanley, UBS, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, that kind of stuff. Morgan Stanley was the first one to activate and allow their advisors to start selling it. There's restrictions on how much they can buy in initially, what they can let it run up to, rebalancing, all that stuff.
Yeah.
UBS and Wells Fargo seem to be on the cusp of launching it themselves, but we're not there yet. But slowly that starts to unlock potential more dollars that could be affecting the space. So
Yeah. Yeah, you are correct. The Bitcoin, it's a household name. Ethereum, people
mhm.
not so sure, but at the same time, we have these ETFs that get approved, and we haven't seen anything approved for these meme coins yet, right? So I feel
Thank
like there's some,
goodness.
yes, I know, which is a good thing. So
Yeah.
there's some protection there that at least the market understands that, and so they're not
Mhm.
allowing that to get through, I guess. But I don't know. I what I tell our clients is it's 10 years. Like we'll add it
Mhm.
to the portfolio. It's a very small percentage. If it goes to zero, which it won't,
Mhm.
doesn't really affect you. If it goes to
Right.
where they think it's going to go in 10 years, it makes a big
Mhm.
impact. So,
Right.
but you have to do it in small doses. When I get
Mhm.
nervous, when I see people coming in, they've got $30,000 in Bitcoin and a
Mhm.
bunch of other stuff I never heard of,
Right.
and they have $100,000 in their brokerage account.
Right.
That's a problem.
The
That's a
risk
problem.
scale is a little off there. Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Mhm.
um, yeah, just a little dab
Mhm.
for both
Yeah.
sides.
And you've had other podcasts with Andrew about this, about just how like adding a small amount really affects in a positive way the returns of a traditional portfolio with
Right.
all those different numbers. So it's cool to kind of see that math get done, and it's more than just buying crypto because you think it's a lottery ticket. It's more thoughtful. So
Yeah. Well, it's here for the future. It's going to be here.
yeah,
You know,
agreed,
I mean, it's no different than when the internet started in the 90s. People are like, oh, I don't know
100%.
about this internet.
Right, or email,
Now
or
your,
all the things, right?
now
Yeah,
your car won't do it. My car
yes.
won't function correctly unless it has access to your home Wi-Fi.
Yes. Or, kind of a little off topic, but I saw Ford recently got a patent issued for if you don't make your payments on your, they can disable your car. I'm like, great.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and then soon enough, it'll just drive it back to the lender. So
Right.
it'll repo itself. Um,
Right.
so,
And
anyways.
automatically change your title inside the blockchain.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. Yep. That's awesome.
Goes full circle.
Yep.
So let's talk about this SEC versus Ripple final judgment. This is something that we've talked about on our crypto editions over the
Yeah.
last year and a half, 2 years, maybe more than that.
Right.
What is this a final? We're done. No, everyone's
Um,
no one's
this
building
is
anymore.
This is final if the SEC does not appeal.
Ah,
So I guess a bit of an asterisk there. So quick summary, this case was filed in December of 20, and it was ongoing for 3-ish years. And the last summer, so 2023, the judge did a lot of stuff that ruled in XRP Ripple's favor. And then there was the remedies portion. That's what we basically just got finished with.
mhm.
The FCC was seeking $1.9 billion in disgorgement, penalty, interest, and basically a combination of things there. Ripple suggested $10 million was their offer to the court, and the judge ended up settling on $125 million. That's obviously a lot of money, but it's not
Yeah.
$1.9 billion. It's 6%
No.
of what the SEC was asking for, to be precise.
Right.
And I think what's important to understand is it was a penalty. There was no disgorgement, there was no interest, nothing like that. It was purely,
Yeah.
disgorgement means investors were harmed. The SEC could not show a single case of investors being harmed in this case. It was purely, in some ways, it was a slap on the wrist just to be done with the case. Ripple spent hundreds of millions of dollars fighting this case, so 125, I guess, is a small percentage ish, if you could think of it
Yeah,
that
it
way.
seems a little
So,
bit like extortion. $125 million, no one was damaged. So what's the 125 for?
the penalty is they're saying early sales, they acted like securities the way that Ripple talked about them. But even though
Oh,
those investors didn't lose money, but they probably should have either registered
disclosed
them
it.
or packaged them differently, right?
Yeah.
So, that was, I think, pre 2017. So early sales of XRP to institutional clients on top of it. There was no retail that was ever caught up in this. So,
Mm.
you know, it felt great to get this behind us. Either side has 60 days to appeal the ruling. So that was, I believe, August the 13th, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
So roughly October 13th coming up here soon. And Ripple said publicly they're ready to move on. They have no real reason to appeal here. The SEC, through comments to reporters, made it seem like they weren't going to appeal, but the SEC does stuff all the time in the crypto land that we don't expect. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm waiting till October the 14th to feel like it's really done, but it seems to be headed that way. So fingers crossed.
I didn't realize that the SEC had dropped their investigation into Binance.
Yeah, that this there hasn't been tons of crypto news the last month or so, but
Hmm.
some of the news, admittedly, is more SEC crypto focused. And, you know, against Binance, CZ, the CEO, is actually about to be released from his prison sentence. He was in there for 4 months. So that's almost over. But in the meantime, about 3 weeks ago, if I'm not, if I remember correctly, they SEC decided to drop the charges, drop the investigation into the Binance stablecoin BUSD.
Yeah.
Just to put this in perspective, when they announced this investigation, there was $60 billion of value held in that stablecoin. It was down to 70 million, so basically zero.
Hmm.
Um, And the SEC's like, oh, sorry, we don't see any problems here. Like, this seems like a total hit job. Like,
Yeah.
you just killed a business. And maybe it had to happen because it was all wrapped up in the other Binance stuff, which they absolutely did some wrong there. Money laundering and all the other bad stuff. But it's kind of crazy to see how, yes, they did a press release saying that they're not following forward with this, but it seems a little disingenuous to have ever been in place if this is what the outcome was going to be. So
Yeah, you think you'd have to do that more quietly, right? But I guess maybe
yeah,
as a publicly traded, are they publicly traded or
no,
private?
no, no, they're not. They're private. And they're not even based in the U.S. for that matter. So
Yeah, for a private company, you think you'd want to do that quieter. I think if you have an SEC investigation on a public company, you have to disclose that because that
right,
could be a risk to investors, obviously.
investors. Yeah,
But yeah, I'm just thinking about if they did that to like, another company not
crypto.
related to crypto.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
what the ramifications of that would be. That's crazy.
Yeah, you would think that not that Binance is likely to do this, but in the example that you're kind of creating there, like I could see a lawsuit going back the other way. Like you
Yeah.
functionally killed this business. Like you harmed investors, the SEC, who is supposed to be protecting investors. Like, so anyways, we don't got to stay on this one
Yeah.
terribly too long, but it
Yeah.
was pretty entertaining.
All right. So you want to play a game?
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a question and you're going to say true or false.
Okay. I
Okay.
don't know the answer.
You
Here
don't
we
know the
go.
answer. If the SEC told the court that they regret any confusion it, quote, may have invited by using the phrase crypto asset security, would you believe me?
False.
True. Okay. So the SEC obviously has multiple crypto cases going on.
Right.
In one of their replies, in a footnote, they slipped in this. They regret that they may have invited by using this, admittedly, made up crypto asset security term that Gensler's just pulled out of thin air.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the other piece. Well, that's the first piece. Second question: would the SEC ever use the phrase crypto asset security again?
Probably yes.
Yes, the next day
The very next
in a
day.
different case, six times. And they've since used it in another case. So obviously, there's multiple teams of attorneys. It just this is funny, sad, and all the same thing. Like it's just crazy. And we'll get to it when we talk about the SEC chairs being in front of the Financial Services Committee. But like, it's these made up terms are, in my opinion, are absolutely confusing because there's no definition, legal definition behind them. And
Mhm.
like, how is the market supposed to react to that? And obviously, we've seen how the SEC has dealt with it. But yeah, a little fun little game there that the uh, the SEC, I guess, created for us. So.
Are you curious why annuities keep coming up as a potential investment option? People are often told that annuities can effectively mitigate investment risks and help secure their financial future. However, annuities often benefit the salesperson and might not be the best choice for you as a consumer. To learn more about the various types of annuities, the negatives of owning them, and better investment alternatives, we have a free ebook on our website just for you. To download our ebook, Buyer Beware, Why Do They Keep Trying to Sell You That Annuity? Simply click the link in the episode notes or visit wiserinvestor.com/guides. Now let's get back to the episode.
You know what? I feel like the SEC's done, and I know that people love to hate on the
Mhm.
crypto side of the SEC, but what they're able to do is clean out a lot of bad actors
Yeah, yeah,
with power that no one else would really have had, honestly.
yeah.
So in that sense, I think they've done their job, but then there's still just confusion as to how we move forward still because we still don't have clear guidelines.
Absolutely. And I would argue that if we had clear guidelines, regulations, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah,
that some of the bad stuff that happened may not have happened because they could have been focused on doing something good, right? It,
Yeah, but
but
at the same time, that it was moving so fast. Government doesn't move that fast.
absolutely, yeah.
So
It's a challenge. And I think maybe we've said this in an episode. I know I've said it to you personally. Is like maybe crypto had to go through this bad boy stage, right?
yeah.
Like
Well, okay.
to
So
raise awareness.
go look at all like social media stuff, man. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, these guys are all hanging out in their hoodies and earbuds in, and it's
Hmm.
just kind of awkward. And now you go look at these companies and they're wearing suits. They're all
Hmm.
cleaned up. They're sitting at the
Yeah.
big boy table now. I think cryptos do the same thing.
Hmm.
Eventually, there's going to be suits,
Oh,
and
100%.
people
Yeah.
are
I mean,
people will grow up in a lot of
well,
different ways. But
yeah, and
I,
I think that part of that growing up stage is crypto is slowly getting embraced into the financial system. Like you have Larry
true,
Fink talking about it in CNBC, like obviously a suit there,
yeah,
and Jamie Dimon and all that stuff. So
right.
you have the traditional suits, and then you have the young guys growing up at the same time. So
So
it's been fascinating to watch.
this presidential race is going to have a big impact on crypto because you know that if Trump's elected, Gensler's
Mhm.
out.
Yes.
Probably that's like day two.
Yeah, and there's a chance that Gensler resigns even before Trump gets, say he
He
gets reelected,
probably
he gets
should.
inaugurated. Yeah,
He probably should.
yeah.
And then you're gonna have a named replacement. But if
Hmm.
Kamala wins, everything kind of stays the same.
That's what it seems like. She's hinted at a quote unquote crypto reset for about a month now. There's been no follow through on that, and if anything, the easiest way to say there's a crypto reset if you're a Democrat is to stop doing the stuff you've been doing for 3 years. Talk to your
Right.
agency, but they have continued down the same path. So, to me, it's like actions speak louder than words, and I think we're
Yeah.
kind of in that. Um, you know, Trump has been rather crypto positive. This is very a Trumpian thing to do. He bought some hamburgers in New York City a week ago with some Bitcoin. Um, and he's trying to embrace it. He talked to the Bitcoin conference in July.
Yeah, that was a big
Like
deal.
that was a big deal. And they actually both accept crypto. I think just Bitcoin and Ethereum for donations. But I think donations don't count. They just want money for their
Right.
campaigns. But it's I think I couldn't come up with two more farther opposed presidential tickets when it comes to crypto than what we have here. And if you're a single issue voter and you're crypto positive, I'm not quite sure there's any sort of discussion needed. Like it's a
Yeah.
pretty
We,
easy vote.
I think some of it switched back to Kamala, but just tech sector in
Hmm.
general, and the startup sector in California uh,
Hmm.
has has really shifted. They were all pro Biden in the last election. They've shifted to
Yeah.
completely pro Trump in this election,
Hmm.
which is very interesting to watch. But obviously, they see a real threat from the current
Hmm.
administration.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously lots of other policies that you get a president elected or not elected, but this
Yeah,
is one that I've tended to
no,
focus
that's
more
very
on.
true. That's very true. I'm working really hard to educate people that your stock portfolio doesn't really matter who the president is, as long as
Hmm.
companies can sell their goods and make money,
Hmm.
make profit, then you'll be fine. But in crypto, that could make a big change. I was at the Braves game last night, ran
Hmm.
into our friend Brad,
Yeah.
who is he was hosting two doctors from the Ukraine. They're doing a speaking engagement tonight
Hmm.
down in Sea Island over the weekend. Uh, those guys really wanted to talk about politics because
Yes.
for
Yeah.
Ukraine right now, it really depends on who wins and who
Hmm.
and the fate of their country in the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
So there's
I
single. My
sometimes.
point is there's single issues that affect voters,
Mhm.
but crypto and startup tech
Mhm.
definitely seem to be favoring the Trump camp right now.
Yeah. And if you'd have asked me a year, maybe even 2 years ago, this next presidential election season, would crypto be part of the conversation? There would have been no chance I would have said yes to that. And to
Right.
see how much it gets talked about, And I think largely because how bad the SEC has treated the crypto industry over the last 3 years created the environment for it to exist in the
Right.
conversation.
And the whole time they're
Oddly
just
enough.
they're asking for guidelines and guidance. So
Right. If they had just answered that question, we wouldn't be here.
please,
Yeah.
please tell us what the rules are, teacher. And then instead we get getting our hands slapped the whole
Yeah.
time. So yeah. All right. So all 5 SEC chairs will be in front of the Financial Services Committee. When is this happening?
I probably worded that incorrectly a little bit. It actually happened yesterday, and on Tuesday. It's the first time that all 5 have sat in front of the Financial Services Committee together since 2019. So it's been a while, and they talked about a wide-ranging number of topics, but the ones I obviously are focused on here are the crypto ones. There's Tom Emmer absolutely roasted Gary in his 5 minutes. He would ask rhetorical questions. Gary would try to answer. He would immediately cut him off and just keep roasting him. That was a bit entertaining. But then you also look at it from the perspective of they gave the commissioners the ability to have some remarks in the beginning. And Hester Peirce, who is one of the 5, she's definitely, I don't know if she's a Republican, but she definitely feels like a Republican in at least in the crypto mindset. And she basically said the agency's been doing it wrong. We have created confusion. We didn't need to create it. We should have been doing the hard work of actually trying to put regulations in place. Like, she's saying all the things you'd want to hear them say.
Yeah.
And she's been very consistent. This is not something new for her. But I would imagine it's a very contentious working relationship. Basically, you're sitting there with your 4 other peers, and then you work with them, you would think, on a daily basis and not a weekly basis in normal operation. But it's crazy to see how different their opinions on this particular topic are. So,
You
and
think you think that was just political grandstanding, or something will happen because of that meeting?
I've learned not to be hopeful about something being so quickly happening out of these committee meetings. If anything, the first thing that comes along is stablecoin regulation. And I was, reminding Andres on the podcast that I recorded with him last week that even if, say, Trump wins the White House and the Republicans win the House and the Senate, like, there's total control. They had that in his first term, and it took him 2 years to get a tax bill done. So nothing happens quickly, even when you have control.
Right.
So, maybe the environment changes around the way the SEC is, approaching the industry. And you kind of get you don't necessarily have to get regulation immediately out of Congress. They can start acting differently from the SEC standpoint. But it's, I think it was Patrick McHenry yesterday that really pushed the 5 chairs to work on stablecoin regulation. Like, if there's an easy win here for everybody, it is this. Stablecoins are not terribly controversial, and they need some regulation around them. You can't make money off of them outside of just maybe some interest type situations. It seems like it could get done if they wanted to. So
Yeah.
I'm not convinced it will. I've been saying for 6 months that we don't see anything until a new administration, whether that's 3 months from now or 4 years and 3 months. So
Yeah. So based on Bitcoin's historical performance, are you making a prediction for Bitcoin here, or?
More of an observation, I would say. I tend to fall back on data. Like, I might have my opinion on something, but if the data doesn't support it, I believe that I'm willing to, pivot my opinion. So if you look at historical data for Bitcoin in particular, back to 2013, Q3, which we're at the tail end of here, is historically the worst quarter to be in. On average, the median is down. It's down 4%. The last 2 quarters, the last Q3 in the last 2 years, so 23 and 24, it's down 6% and 11%. This year, Q2 and Q3, we're down to collectively almost 18%. So it's been a slow bleed since the end of Q1.
Yeah.
But if you also jump into what Q4 looks like, the average Q4 is up 88% over the 10-year period. The median is 56% up. So, if the data is any sort of directionally correct here, we could be having greener days this next last 3 months of the year. So,
Well, that's some of the predictions for the stock market as well. Andrew was talking about that on 2 podcasts ago, that typically after the election is the strongest part of the year. Of course, we're already up quite a bit year to date. Maybe this year looks a little different, but that would make sense because stocks and Bitcoin seem to kind of move in the same general direction, whether it be up or down.
Yeah, it's if you kind of zoom out even more than just looking at quarters, we're technically still in a crypto bull market cycle. It has been elongated. This whole down for Q2 and Q3 is not terribly normal in a bull market cycle, but none of the hard and fast rules of technicals have been broken to kind of say that we are technically out of a bull market cycle. But it seems like it'll run through Q4 into Q1, maybe even Q2 of 25, depending on how it goes. And admittedly, as much as I don't want this to be the case, I think what happens in early November with the election absolutely changes or has a bit of a
for crypto,
a pivot point here. For crypto,
For crypto, I would agree with that. Yeah, very, very true. So, what's the name of the podcast you're doing?
Yep, Andres and I do it roughly weekly. It's the weekly crypto check-in. You can find it in any podcast player by searching that or Teton Crypto Capital. So
great. Thanks for the plug on that one. And I think that wraps it up for this episode. Anybody listening wants to learn more about crypto and in crypto investing, you're welcome to reach out to Robert directly. We'll link to him inside the show notes. We also have lots of other crypto related topics. Episode 237, estate planning for crypto assets. Episode 231, state of crypto education for advisors. Ethereum ETFs and the meme coin frenzy was one of the last podcasts we did. This is episode 246. We're approaching episode 250. I've been told that we have a new camera coming in. We're going to have double camera angles in office. We're going to have new graphics, making a big deal about 250. I don't know. I just show up. They put pieces of paper in front of me.
Yeah. I'm willing to show up as long as there's no makeup involved. So we're good.
Right, exactly.
We get to that point, I'm out. So yeah.
But we also have a YouTube channel called A Wiser Retirement. You can go there and also watch this edition of the podcast. So thanks for listening. And Robert, thanks for coming and doing this once a month. And we'll talk to you soon.
Take care.